how did it come up in your mind that consulting should be the next path forward after B school?
So for me, it was okay, what do I do next? That's when I started talking to people, and people mentioned McKinsey again, and I was like, oh, McKinsey, I've heard of that. So that was the first time I really understood what's consulting.
What are the three skills or one is looking for in a consultant?
And problem solver, I think, is the biggest thing.
For him, what about work-life balance for a McKinsey consultant? That's key question.
It all depends, honestly.
How much money do McKinsey consultant make?
Okay. um, I would say decent money.
What's the best time to leave consulting?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a best time to leave or best time to stay. Again, it all comes down to your personal like goals in life and also personal situations, but also professional situations.
I would say the McKinsey consultants are the pipeline for becoming CEOs.
Hmm.
Why is that?
That's a tough question.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another podcast with me with Against All Odds. I'm your host today, and today you're about to meet someone who cracked one of the hardest job in the world. My guest is an engagement manager at McKinsey. What makes him fascinating isn't just his resume, but his mindset. Fahim Dar, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Fahim, would you like to give your little bit of your intro, where you started and how you got into McKinsey?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been at McKinsey for about 4 years. Out of our Detroit office, I do most of my work in what we call the Advanced Industries Group. That includes our aerospace and our automotive division. There are a few other industries there, but this is mainly where I spend my time. But prior to McKinsey, I was in the aerospace and automotive industry. Started with Honeywell Aerospace, went into their automotive division, served as an application engineer for about 6 years, and did my MBA at Booth and got here. But prior to all of that, I have a background in aerospace engineering. Went to Purdue for aerospace engineering for 4 years there. Right after that, went straight to a master's program in University of Illinois, focused heavily on aircraft engines, and then did nothing in aircraft engines.
Yeah.
Here I am today.
Okay. So Fahim, I know you graduated from Booth in 2020.
Mhm.
What was your game plan? Was it always like consulting was the route you wanted to take for many years, or how did it come up in your mind that consulting should be the next path forward after B school?
Yeah, for sure. I'd heard of McKinsey in Purdue while I was at Purdue, but I had no idea what they do. So I
Yeah.
went to the site and I saw, oh, aerospace. I do that. So I applied and I had a very tech resume. Hey, I've done all this research. I've done this. I can solve these equations, blah, blah, blah. And nothing. No one even responded to my resume. And I was like, okay, probably not an industry I understand about or, I'm interested in. So fast forward, I'm now at Honeywell Auto. And I think it was 3 years in my job. I had exceeded the number of promotions I could get.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, it was like, okay, I can't do this. Like, I can't just be in this job for the rest of my life. And then when I look old enough that I get the next promotion. So for me, it was okay, what do I do next? That's when I started talking to people, and people mentioned McKinsey again. And I was like, oh, McKinsey, I've heard of that. Tell me more. So that was the first time I really understood what's consulting. So for me now it was, okay, what do I have to do in reverse so I can get to where I want to go? So for me, business school wasn't when I learned about consulting. It was actually why I went to business school. But for me, the fallback option was always go back to industry.
Okay.
So I think what helped me in that situation was I had a very clear goal of what I want to get out of my MBA. Because it wasn't any consulting, I'll take it and I'll just do whatever it is
Yeah.
because, they all comp wise at an intro level, they all pay the same. So most people are like, that's great. I should just do whichever one it is.
Yeah.
For me, I always want to keep my exit options open. So
Hmm.
for that, it was, either the classic MBB, go there, do it for a few years. And if I don't see consulting as a way of life forever, I can
Yeah.
always exit into something where I won't feel like I'm taking a step back. That's how McKinsey was top of mind. So I actually applied to Booth with the goal of getting into one of the top three. And funny enough, I won't mention
Yeah.
exactly which firm, But of the top three, there was one other firm that actually was closest to me my entire MBA journey. And I was almost 90% sure that that's where I'm going to go. And that wasn't McKinsey. I knew McKinsey was where I wanted to go, but I also had this fear of like, oh, McKinsey is probably too good.
Yeah.
You're not going to talk to me. So I just like to, in the fear of rejection, I just avoided them altogether. And COVID happened, and hiring plans completely changed. And the other firm that, I was very, very close with, they just froze hiring completely. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I have like 9 months till I graduate. I should maybe start thinking about some other options as well. So I finally had the courage to reach out to an associate partner from our Detroit office. He had also been to Booth, but he was very senior at the time because he was already an AP. So I just called him and was just like, hey, can we get 15 minutes? Let me understand more about, how does it work at McKinsey and like what exactly are you guys looking for? So through that, I think it was the first time I really realized that the kind of person and the profile I am, which is, I don't know if people will recognize this, but I'm an ENTJ from your MBTI Myers-Briggs test. So I'm a high extrovert, but I'm also a J, so very judging, judging as in fact judging. And I'm a T, which is I'm a thinker, less of a feeler. And I realized the type of things McKinsey is looking for
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of naturally just fits a lot of the things I naturally bring to the table. So that's when I really started pursuing it. And from there on, you already said what I've been doing, et cetera. So it's been history from there on.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm mentioning all of these things is you might think you're a fit for something and strongly a fit for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just don't realize you're a much bigger fit for something else and you're just not even pursuing it. Either you're afraid or you think that's not the one for you, or there's a million reasons. So I'm turning this into a little bit of an advice thing, but it's more of there are a lot of options around you, and it's not just the one we always get hyper focused on, and we think that's the entire world. So,
Yeah. And that brings me to the next question, which all I always had in my mind, that what are the three skills or one is looking for in a consultant, which you figured out that you already have it, right? So,
hmm.
um,
There are I could mention so many things, but since you're forcing me to give three, so I will give a classic three consultant answer.
yeah,
I think the biggest one by far is you have to be a structured problem solver.
yeah,
Many people think, oh, to get into consulting, I need to have consulting experience. That's just so far from the truth. In fact, big consulting firms hope that you don't have consulting experience because they want to mold you in exactly the way they want you to think. So if you're a fresh face, it's
yeah,
easier to mold you. But to get back to your question, problem solver, I think, is the biggest thing because you can't just be focused on one particular industry or like topic or function or whatever domain expertise you bring. In consulting, that's not the case unless you go to a very boutique place. You will be
yeah.
thrown around. Today, I'm serving an auto player. Tomorrow, I'll be serving an aerospace player. And for some reason, let's say they're all owned by this one private equity group. And that private
Mhm.
equity group also now wants me to go to their other portfolio company, which ends up being, boats. I've never done boats before. I have to be able to go serve boats because my parent client actually wants me to go there. So all this to say, if you have structured problem solving, you have intrinsics, you're able to break down any complex problem by just, quickly 80/20 understanding what does it take to even understand the basics of this industry or the problem. And then you're able to take it from there.
Mhm.
That by far is like the number one requirement, I would say.
Mhm.
Number two is you have to be a great client counselor. At the end of the day, it's a client serving job. So you could have amazing analyses, analytics, sizing opportunities, etc. If you don't know how to make the client digest that and understand it, and also at some time make them feel that this is actually a realistic opportunity, even though to you this sounds impossible. If you don't have those skills or those muscles to be able to counsel someone, it's not just about facts. Sometimes it's also about the people side of things. Um, Nothing else matters. So that would be my second biggest one. Third one, since you're forcing me to give you three, I will say entrepreneurship is another huge one as well. Early on, maybe you might think it's not as important, but the
Yeah.
more time you spend in consulting, the more different ways you could think of, coming up with new opportunities, whether it's either current client or whether you're a partner and now you're looking for other ways to serve different clients or to bring a new topic to the industry and be able to maximize the opportunity there, like all those things. There's an entrepreneurial muscle under that.
Hmm.
So people think, oh, to show entrepreneurial, do I have to have founded a company or a startup or something like
Yeah.
that? But absolutely not. You could be entrepreneurial in any job every single day. Like you are a manufacturing engineer and there's a line where always there's 20 seconds wasted. No one can figure out why. And you came up with a solution on how to reduce those 20 seconds down to 5 seconds. That's entrepreneurial. You just found a solution to something, right? So we're always looking for it in that way. So I'll pause there. Those are the three big things I would say that come top of mind, which is probably natural too, because I never thought about it this way. So that was a good question.
So, can we emphasize a little bit because I knew about first two like problem solving. What was the second one?
Client counseling.
Yeah. Can we emphasize a little bit on entrepreneurship because I never thought about that piece.
Mhm.
Um, can we deep dive into is what's the expectation as a consultant when they're coming up, they're coming on a project? Like how can they act in that capacity as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur?
It all depends on, where you are in the consulting journey. So
Mhm.
by no means is a new hire expected to bring in a new project, right?
Right, right.
The
Mhm.
classic ways you think of that as entrepreneurship. But in your own role too, it's always keeping your eyes and ears open and always looking for what other opportunities are there in addition to what I am serving right now.
Yeah.
So an example would be you're getting a coffee with the client and you ask the client about their day-to-day responsibilities. They have a job outside of working with you. Um, and you're always keeping your ears open of like, oh, I heard something else which has nothing to do with with the engagement right now, but they could clearly use help here, right? So just being able to have that muscle of always looking out for opportunities. And it's like, how do you serve the client better? How do you make the current problem better? And sometimes it's also internal stuff. You could have a tool that everybody uses internally. I'll make one up. Like, for example, we have a tool where you could get all the financial information of any company pretty fast.
Okay.
So through that, you would be able to see, hey, there's a few things that are very easy to add. Like, for example, you don't give a 5-year history on the stock price. I have to go separately go do that. Why don't I just add that feature here? And you figure out who is working on this and you all go add that feature to the product, right? So there's opportunities left, right, and center. It's the expectation gets more and more formal. So as you
Mhm.
become associate partner, et cetera, and all the equivalent titles at other firms, of course, you're expected to be an entrepreneur and be able to find opportunities where you go serve. It's less
Mhm.
of, hey, staffing manager, can you put me on a new project? It's more of, you go figure out what the client needs or who are the new clients we haven't served and what are the ongoing themes in the industry right now that the clients will need help on. And you go figure that out and you make a case out of it, right? You convince the client to tell them that you are here. One, you understand their problem, but two, you're also able to solve it. So it becomes more, so the definition of entrepreneurial spirit or the entrepreneurial muscles, it continues to evolve. But the intrinsics of entrepreneurship should always be there, basically.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's good to know because you're going above and beyond in your project, also solving other people's problem at the same time.
Yeah.
That would make you a well-rounded, good consultant to move forward to the path of becoming a partner.
Right.
But for him, what about work-life balance for a McKinsey consultant? That's key question.
It all depends, honestly. Uh,
Okay.
on paper, yes, everyone knows it's not a 9 to 5, which I feel like there's very few jobs nowadays that are 9 to 5. So the good thing is people don't expect to completely shut off the computer at 5 and you're done, right? I think the way I want to define it, we're more a delivery-based model and less of a time-based model. So it doesn't matter if it took you 20 hours or 60 hours per week and you were able to solve the problem. Great, that's all that matters. But on top of that, yes, the problems that come to us are very complex in nature. Otherwise, they would not come to us. They would have been solved already. So by nature of that, yes, it can be challenging. And at the end of the day, we are a client serving business. So, in the spirit of serving my client, if a client wants something late evening, I can't say, oh no, we'll wait till tomorrow. Sometimes I will if it's completely new analysis. Other times it's something I already have. They just want it because they have a board meeting tomorrow morning. Of course, I'm going to be available for that. So having said that, all these things in mind, you can create your own path. So sounds very cliche, right? Like,
Yeah,
oh, no,
yeah.
create your own, you can do whatever you want. But the more time you spend in consulting, whether that's here or somewhere else, um, the more you'll be able to realize that you can indeed surround yourself by people who actually have, the same responsibilities in life as you do. Me, for example, parent of two, have to figure out that, hey, I can't just only be available for work. I have a life outside of that. And how do I manage that, right? So the key for success there is you one have to be open about your needs. I think in every engagement, when you do it right, you sit down and you understand the team norms, you understand boundaries, you understand who likes to do what and when. And we as a team try to make sure that we protect the time for people for that. So they're always able to access those things. So for me, I've been able to find partners and senior partners who are in a similar circle of life, have similar responsibilities, and can empathize someone on the other side on what their other additional responsibilities are as well. So it all starts with you of what you hold near and dear to your heart,
Hmm.
and just also trusting your own skills. If I've seen the people who actually work the most, other people who are not as efficient. So this may trigger some people, but if you're working all the time, it means you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out how come someone else in my team is able to do the job way faster than me and is still able to deliver results the same way as me, but I feel like I have to work a lot, right? So you have to go deep into that and think, what actually makes me do that? Is it because I feel like my work's never complete? I could always make it better. That's true, but at some point we have to call it. Is it because you want optics to be known as the person who is always working? Great, if that's what.
Does that work in your favor? If like,
Yeah,
does that optics work?
absolutely not.
No? Okay.
I think that again comes down to who you surround yourself with. If you're surrounding yourself with someone who actually takes pride in always working, of course, they're going to be impressed by you always working. But then the question you want to ask yourself is that who you want to surround yourself with? Or, the firms that you'll join, there's thousands of partners, at least in some cases, hundreds of partners, which means you at least have 100 chances to find different 100 types of people. So have you exhausted that yet, right? I think what people do is they get comfortable with whatever circle or part or function or industry they serve, and nobody likes change. So even though the incumbency right now, the classic power of incumbency is
Yeah.
this is not ideal for me, but it's that there's too much stickiness. It's going to be hard to change. Switching costs are high. I'm just going to do what I keep doing. And then they're miserable and they always complain about it. So at the end of it, if your work-life balance is bad and you have chances to do something about it, especially in consulting, you're really lucky because you can always change. You have no bosses. You can
Yeah.
always go to a different group if you wanted to, especially if you're not a boutique firm. And you're not doing anything about it and you're just complaining. I mean, at that point, I think it's more on you than the people who are around you.
So you're saying it's on them how they use their time, and some people might be trying to stay proactive all the time, but they might not be as productive as needed, right? So
Yeah.
would you recommend some kind of like framework or tools so that I know there is no like cookie cutter answer for this one, but um, they are able to meet the expectation, also go above and beyond so that they can go upwards in terms of career trajectory.
Yeah.
Any?
Yeah. Like you said, there's no like one framework that would work for everybody.
Yeah.
But I think the general thing is whoever you are accountable to next, directly accountable to, you have very clear expectations of and definitions of what does success look like. So for me, if I'm working directly with a partner now as an EM, and sometimes with senior partners, depending on what engagement it is. You sit down and you decide, hey, at a project level, what does success look like? Okay, at a weekly level, what does success look like? And then at a daily level, what does success look like? The more senior you go, the less they care about short-term delivery. They care about at the end of it, I want to make sure what we promised the client, we're able to deliver that and go beyond that. Okay, beyond, tell me more. What does beyond mean? That could mean anything. That's where people get lost. Oh, the partner wants to go beyond what we promised. Does
Yeah.
beyond mean double, triple, or does it mean 5 more%?
Yeah.
I think that's when you align with leadership of exactly what are we trying to deliver. And at the end of it, let's say the study ends tomorrow, what would make you feel like we did a great job? So it's having those tough conversations sometimes.
Mhm.
And that way you know exactly what you're pushing towards. Because sometimes you'll see in a product role, for example, in an industry or any other, someone who's owning a BU or or like a P&L, they know exactly what their targets are. Like, okay, you deliver X million dollars, your EBITDA is this percent.
Yeah.
You hit that, success. Okay, great. I have a whole year or a quarter in most cases to work
Yeah.
against it, and I know what success looks like. Great. Tonight I have to end early because I'm going to someone's birthday party, and tomorrow I have to start late because I'm going to the dentist. No one cares, right? You actually go work about it that way. It's the same way you want to operate here too. I don't think people have that's one thing I've realized here is a lot of people don't have that. It comes back to entrepreneurship again. People don't have that muscle of, if I'm the owner, what do I need to do to deliver the impact? Once you have that discussion clearly, you could be a new joiner who joined today, and you have that conversation with me as your EM. I will tell you exactly what success will look like. You own a certain work stream. In that work stream, you have, 5 sub work streams that you're delivering. In work stream or sub work stream A, success looks like X% revenue increase. In second one, success looks like 5% cost decrease. And third one, success looks like clients are happy and they're joining all your meetings and you've had a coffee with a client a week. It's stuff like that. But all of those things all matter. So all comes down to have a clear framework of with your leadership, this is what we define success as. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to go back to what I said previously, which is surround yourself with the right people. You want to be able to work with people who think about not just work, but life in a similar way. I'm not saying you need to find exact people, but you should have roughly the same priorities in life, or you should more or less understand each other's priorities, even if they're different. And lastly, comes down to you. What's most important to you in life? And whatever that is, let's make sure that actually gets taken care of.
Yeah, wow. That's like a really good coaching session for myself as well. Okay. Okay. So I'm moving on to one of the questions. If people are watching this podcast, they would be really interested if they're applying for consulting. How much money do McKinsey consultant make?
Okay. Um, I would say decent money. But again, is that the only path where you would make money? Probably not. A lot of other ways to do about it. I would say numbers are one number. All numbers are posted. So good thing about it, about the big firms is you could literally Google and you'll see exactly what's out there. But for a typical post MBA hire, you're looking at about 190 or something like that is the today's market, and it's just I'm talking generally about the top few firms. And then, there's bonuses and whatnot. So you're looking at 230, 250 in some cases. It's
Mhm.
very similar to private equity as well.
Yeah.
If you were to go straight after business school, but the paths from there on change pretty drastically. So that's kind of where you are. The one thing I will say though is, if you're going to consulting only for comp, you're gonna have a very tough time.
Okay.
Because like the other things you just mentioned, work-life balance and like delivery, the expectations, and also finding the work exciting. If all those things don't check the box, there's other things you can do where you probably make same or more and are probably happier in life. But yeah, that's what I would caveat that with because I know I understand the basis of the question because it's an attractive point to a lot of people that drives them to consulting. But I will say, and I've met people who've, come to the industry for that particular reason. Honestly, did not last very long. It's just not sustainable. That's not the only thing that should keep you happy. So it goes a lot more beyond that. Sorry for a more philosophical answer
Yeah.
than what you were expecting.
No, that's totally needed because that leads me to my next question. What's the best time to leave consulting? Because you started as like after B school, you started an associate, right? What happens? I've heard you're up and out. So can you explain how does that work? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a best time to leave or best
Hmm.
time to stay. Again, it all comes down to your personal like goals in life and also personal situations, but also professional situations. But to explain the concept of up or out, I would say it's pretty common, but it's also not as cutthroat and straightforward as it sounds. All this means is, in the industry, you might have sometimes met someone who's a senior engineer. And you're like, hey, how long have you been a senior engineer? About 25 years. Oh, you don't want to manage people? No. Okay, well, you don't want to go into more leadership role? No. Okay, that's fine. Keep doing what you're doing because you're still helping. That doesn't work in consulting. It's just the way the model is. You can't just take one role and decide to just be there forever and be happy with it. You have to always show progression. And that's what the concept of up or out is. Basically, you continue to show progression, you continue to show, you're learning the new tools and the new skills, and you continue to add more value to what you're doing, and expectations continue to get higher. And the good thing is you get rewarded with, better results and better titles and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're someone where you always want to look for that next thing in front of you, and it doesn't feel like a million years away, and that's what keeps you motivated because you can't be in a job where you're just doing one thing for the rest of your life. For some people that works, job security, other, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but if that's not you and you always want that next challenge, and usually you see that with people who've gone to business school, people who are applying to consult, like you can already tell they're a certain type of personality that you always want more. Then it's a great place for you to be because you put in the work, you show you deliver, you get rewarded, and then the cycle starts all over again. And then whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, again, you're up for that next thing again, and then it just keeps moving up and up and up. So that's basically what that means. If someone's been in a role for way too long and isn't developing, and just you don't see any progression, you don't see new skills they're learning, you don't see new ways they're delivering impact, then you have a conversation with those people and basically make it clear, here's what you need to continue delivering on as part of your progression piece. You give them reasonable time to actually show that they are working towards that. And if
Hmm.
they don't, then then teams jointly agree to um, show them a different path. Just because someone leaves consulting, by the way, I should say this, it does not mean that that person is not a successful person. It just means the environment of consulting is probably not the best fit. Many times I've seen people who left, sometimes willingly, sometimes unwillingly.
Yeah.
They've gone on to have amazing careers.
Yeah.
They've become executives, they've founded their own companies, they've multiplied value in those companies by 100x.
Yeah.
They've like gone on to become CEOs at other companies. They've gone into private equity. Some have gone into, more public sector work. Like people will do whatever they want to do
Hmm.
and still be successful because the fact that you're even in those big firms already shows you bring something to the table that a lot of people cannot. So just because you're now leaving consulting, it's not a failure. I feel like many people see it that way.
Hmm.
But like I said, I know more people that have left and are way more successful than anyone else who's never been even able to get into consulting. So
Okay. Okay, let me shift gears a bit to so that like somebody who's in early 20s or late 20s, they're watching this podcast. What's the difference between an associate or engagement manager, and or if we want we can also get into AVP, like three. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Associate is your classic consultant. And so the word consultant, like what do you think of? So different firms have different meanings of the word associate, but it all just means what part of your career are you starting? All right. But generally, associate is the consultant that does the work. So the setup is in a way where you have an engagement manager or a project leader or a senior manager or team leader. There's so many variants across companies. At the end of the day, if you're someone who's leading the project, um, you have a team with you of associates, analysts, consultants, whatever title you want to use. And I think that's the first thing you mentioned, which is the associate. So what they do is um, the simplest way to describe it is a manager manages the whole project, whereas analysts and consultants manage work streams within that project. So you would have a classic, let me give you an example of, let's say you have a commercial transformation going on. You would give pricing to someone. They would go lead that, right? Then you would give product to someone else. They would go lead that. You would give contracts to someone else. They would go lead that. You could give, geography based BU to someone. They go lead that. So all the people I just mentioned, those are all associates and consultants. So you have ownership of what you do, and you're actually doing the analyses, you're doing the interviews, you're doing the research outside of that, you're talking to clients day to day, you're building models, you're building PowerPoint pages, all of that stuff. So you're actually owning all the work that actually drives value. So next is manager, like I just said. But for a manager, it's not just the project. I know from my delivery point, it's just the project. But they're also the first point of contact for the client. They're the first point of contact for leadership,
Okay.
right? And they're first point of contact for their team, the one that I just mentioned. So they become, we use the term quarterback quite often of a project. So they're basically deciding where all the things go. They call the plays. They decide who to give the ball to, etc. And they decide, and they make sure we keep moving forward. So one of my mentors basically said, as a consultant, you have one responsibility, which is you deliver impact on your work stream. But as a manager, you have five. It goes straight from one to five. And I just mentioned three, which is managing a team, first point of contact for client, first point of contact for leadership. Four is managing the project. And five is owning the final answer. You decide at the end of the day, what is the answer to this problem? So by managing a project, I mean day to day, but then you also decide, okay, where is this headed? Which direction are we going to go? Where are we going to decide that this is where the impact is? And that's the path we should pursue. So that's what the engagement manager does. And then the next one you mentioned, that's when your role switches a bit from. So the next one is associate partner in other firms, principal, and there's a few other variations of this being used. That's the first time you switch from purely delivering impact to the current work in front of you, but you're now also in charge of thinking about what is the next wave of work we could do, other forms we could serve a client, finding new clients who have similar needs. So it's now on to you to also start finding, new projects, etc. So you go from purely just a consultant that solves problems, and this goes back to our discussion in the beginning. Now entrepreneurial muscles become a lot more important. So it's not just delivering what you're doing today, but you also have to think about, okay, what am I delivering tomorrow? What is the future wave of, the client counseling that we can do, and how are we going to make that a reality? And how are we going to make our clients see value in that?
What about the sales part? Is there like a sales component when it comes to AVP?
I think it's different for firm to firm. So I can't say specifically for one firm versus the other, but yeah, some firms actually have that.
Mm-hmm.
Others don't really have that until you are an actual partner.
Oh, okay.
Makes sense because you actually own part of the business, hence the word partner.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you own part of the business, it's on you to bring part of the business. But yeah, some places have that expectation. I think it only gets formalized when you become a partner.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, others don't. They just think about it until you become a partner. And the role before that almost becomes like a practice round. So we're grooming our to be partners the right way. And by the time they become partners, they know exactly what to deliver.
Yeah. So, leading on to the partner question, or gonna change the question a bit here, is for most of the McKinsey folks end up becoming CEOs, right? Or I would say the McKinsey consultants are the pipeline for becoming CEOs.
Hmm.
Why is that?
That's a tough question. I would say, first of all, I don't know if most of them make it, but you're right. There are CEOs that have been McKinsey consultants in the past.
Like, because if I like see so many shows, right? Like Shark Tank or
Hmm.
many shows, or even but they are the actual pipeline to the CEOs based on the industry trends, and that's why I asked this question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say the reason is that you are already on a very fast-paced environment. You can make decisions under pressure. So you are thrown in front of the CEO, and in 8 weeks you have to solve the problem that they haven't been able to solve in 2 years or sometimes more. So you know how to prioritize things so that you can get to the answer pretty quickly. And you have a proven record of delivering impact. You've gone to places where the business was flatlining or declining or just keeping up with inflation. And you were able to now show them a strategic path where they're able to hit the targets that they've promised others that they will. So you have that proven record of, how to deliver impact. On top of that, too, you're serving all types of clients. You're serving all types of problems. So um, it's another avenue to show that you are not just a one-trick pony, and you can step up to the plate no matter what the problem is, and you will somehow find an answer, which I think is a very key skill or a trait you want to see in a CEO as well.
Is
Um,
it because you build this muscle or the framework one gets when they go into consulting, right?
mhm.
They get used to solving a problem from a very specific set of eyes, or I don't know if you guys use first principles or different frameworks for different industry problems. And that's how you are able to solve a problem in 8 weeks versus someone else looking at it for 8 months. How is that muscle developed for you guys versus somebody outside in the industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it comes down to the operating model. Like we were saying earlier, like if you're a P&L owner, for example, you have a quarter at the very least to show some results. Sure, you're working towards the day to day, but you have this longer term result in front of you. Whereas our op model, it goes week by week. There are some projects where it's a 3 week project, and you have to help an investor decide whether or not they should buy a certain asset. But, okay, a big task, but I by now know how to distill straight to the things that matter and be able to eliminate or filter out the noise that may get people distracted along the way. I think it's just that op model, and also the fact that you work so closely with your teams. You get very close time with a partner. You get time with senior partners. You have very like direct time with your EM, people who have been doing this for years, and you're now modeling them in a way on how they solve problems and how they break problems down. So you get thrown into this mixer basically where you all are doing the same thing. Initially, you may feel like, and it will feel like it. Initially, you may feel like, oh, it's moving way too fast for me. I don't understand why we're moving this fast, or how do we actually get down to the answer? After a few repetitions, you'll almost start recognizing the pattern of things that matter and things that don't matter. I think that's what does it, right? That's how you've done it enough times. We joke here in like in consulting, it's dog years. Like a year is like 7 years in the industry because
Yeah,
you've just done so many projects, you've delivered so much and also worked so much, hopefully not 7 years equivalent.
yeah,
That, it's just a way faster environment. And to your earlier question too, because you were saying, when do people leave and when should they leave, et cetera. Like many people, when they get to a manager, like they decide if that's the point, they should jump off too, right? And the reason is in that time, whatever time they've spent, whether for some people it takes 4 years, 2 years, 7 years, depending
Whatever.
on when you
Yeah.
started, by the time you're done, you're like, I have a very rich understanding of how to break any problem. And
Yeah.
now I want to go
Yeah.
apply it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I think to your point, that's what it takes over the years. And you, if you decide to stay and you keep going on and on and on, the other titles and roles we just discussed, by the time you're partner, I would say you've probably had more repetitions and more tries at solving a certain problem that no one else has with the same tenure of as
Yeah.
you outside of the consulting world. So that's a that to me feels like, one of the factors there. But of course, there are a few other
But
things.
also for him, I would think like if you're in industry and you are like an analyst or like an associate, whatever the right terminology is, you don't have exposure to leadership versus somebody like you
Hmm.
sitting with the CFO in the same room. I could be an associate with my EM and other folks, and that gives you kind of like thought process or modeling um,
Hmm.
methodology you would look at in terms of how to solve a problem in the industry. So I think that's the biggest plus one would get in getting into consulting, right?
A very good point that I did not cover. You're absolutely right. It is the exposure as well. Like
Yeah,
you are presenting to the C-suite, sometimes directly to the CEO. And to your point, not just presenting, you're also having conversations with them. You're sitting down with them, understanding what does their day-to-day look like? You know, what other problems do you solve? Like, how do you go about structuring your day? What does your month look like? How do you stay so calm when you have this giant P&L that you're managing and you have to deliver, 10% growth to your investors? Just being around that, yeah, to your point, those people start looking real. Until then, these people are all mythical creatures that we've never met and we don't even know if they exist. And then you see in real life, like, oh, like you have a lot more things in common with me than I thought.
yeah,
And you are really good at these three things, which I have no idea how to solve them yet. But by just being around you, I'm at least hearing how you tackle them.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's this big exposure piece, which you're right, that you wouldn't otherwise get because, like I said, my previous job, I would probably have to wait another 10, 15 years before I could get to sit in the same room as our CEO or our C-suite and understand how do they think about our company, right? So,
Yeah, because big companies are taking too long to make big decisions, right? Or those
mhm.
standard industries, versus if you're in consulting, you're moving fast and you're making quick decisions. Maybe the decisions are wrong, but you're getting more leeway or more iteration to make corrections, right?
Yeah.
Versus regular industry, you go through the governance that one has to approve this has to be approved by this person, and maybe in 6 months I'll complete a project, and by that time AI is here, right?
Yeah.
AI is going to take your job. Okay, so shifting gears towards AI.
Okay.
Is AI coming for consultant? Is it going to take their jobs, or how are you seeing the shift? Yeah.
Fair. AI is not taking any jobs where you are the critical thinker behind any problems. That's my takeaway overall. And one, AI has been around for a while, but specifically, I know with the whole Gen AI boom with Chat GPT, et cetera, and people just think you can write theses in 2 minutes. So to that point, my answer is then PhDs will go away too, because you could just have Chat GPT write PhD theses now, and we don't need actual doctors thinking about it. So coming back directly though, it will definitely change the way we work, and it should for the better. But I don't think it replaces anybody. So the classic thing of you writing something in 50 slides and just being able to do all of that manually, and now, oh, I built the deck. Maybe now you have AI tools that help you with that, but you are driving the thinking behind it. So I think, in fact, it actually makes it a lot better because now what you're delivering and your value proposition and like your ability to critically think and what we said in the beginning, ability to break down complex problems, that becomes a lot more important and like almost foundational to what you do. And if that doesn't exist, then yeah, to your point, all the copy pasting and stuff or all the generic answers that people can find through researching,
Yeah.
those all exist. I think the right consultant will use Gen AI as a supplemental tool to even make them better.
Do they have an option now, like internal chatbots, or are
Yeah,
you?
yeah, firms are building their own tools.
Mhm.
The reason is, they have proprietary information and assets and, frameworks and data that they've collected over the years that, of course, they want to protect, rightly so. But they are leveraging it, just like you said, so that people don't have to manually go find all of these things. They can actually distill it down to what matters at the end of the day, given the context, and at the end of the day, saves a few hours too. Comes back to our work-life balance. I think AI is going to make our work-life balance better.
Yeah.
And it's gonna save us unnecessary hours of research, Googling stuff, downloading stuff from reports, creating manual tables from that, and then being able to do the analysis. I think now all those things now get just eliminated right away. In fact, you even get some upfront analyses done for you, and then
Mhm.
you're the one critically thinking about, okay, what's the actual impact behind all of this analysis? So you truly get to spend more value add time, in my opinion, than just doing things to get you set up to that point where you can now start critically thinking. So I'm excited by it. So I'm sure some people are not, uh, but
Yeah.
generally the consensus is it's.
But what's the industry trend or shift you're seeing in terms of projects?
Mhm.
Maybe the clients are changing the types of project requests they're coming to you
Yeah.
guys, right? Has there been any specific trend you're seeing or a big shift you're seeing at this point?
Yeah, a couple years ago, there's a lot of work of, hey, I don't understand this. Can you help me understand how it would apply to me? And how is it going to make my business better? Or are there any use cases that would apply to me or my industry or my particular firm or company? And how can I, drive efficiencies through that? So there was a lot of like intro to Gen AI type of projects, if you want to call them that. I think since then, clients have gotten very smart about where it applies to them, where it does not. So now it's almost an expectation on when you are delivering certain recommendations that we also think about, okay, where can Gen AI be leveraged and where can it not be leveraged? And what are the things that you must think through before that becomes a reality for you? So it's just one more tool that now is gonna become part of daily vernacular. Just 15, 20 years ago, it was not an expectation that you and I are talking on Zoom like this, and now it is an expectation that everybody has access to this. Same way, when the internet came around, people first were like, not gonna need it. I'm still gonna travel to the client day to day, print paper and carry a giant suitcase with me and give everyone hard copies of the PowerPoint I'm about to present. But now if you do that, like, you're living under a rock, right? So it's just one of those tools which my kids will have grown up with it their whole life. They wouldn't know any other way. So they wouldn't know what life is without it, but they still have to life, right? So that's how I think about it. I think it's just it's here for the good. But we're still figuring it out. By no means is it at a spot where we all think we've we have the ultimate answer.
But due to this, there has been a shift or in hiring process as well because they're hiring more or less people. I graduated last year. There were way less opportunities for consulting, right?
Mhm.
So what is your suggestion? How should one be prepping if they're graduating in 2025 or 2026 to get into these roles?
And you mean specifically in consulting roles?
Consulting roles, yes.
Yeah, I think the things we talked about in the beginning, that still remains the foundation. So
Mm-hmm.
you still have to be a good problem solver at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, does it help to know how to prompt? Great. Like, but does anyone expect you to be a master at it? Not yet. Maybe it will become an expect, and I'm talking just one industry, right? I'm sure other industries are in a completely different line right now in terms of growth. Um, so the it comes back to the good old boring advice of how to apply for it. You just continue to focus on how do you show enough data points that you've solved complex problems? How do you show data points that You've counseled whether a team or clients or whatever in the past. And then
How do you show that? Like,
how do I show that? You use data points. You have a clearly laid out resume that actually, says impact this complication, and then here's what the results were. So it's classic situation, complication, and then resolution. If you are able to do that in your resume, I think people will see exactly what you did. So it's not just enough to show how you resolved a problem. It's very important to show what the problem was. And it's also very important to show what made that problem complicated. If you can do those things pretty well in your resume, I think, you are someone who's demonstrating the things that people are looking for.
yeah, and how one should be getting in front of recruiters or hiring manager, because once you go to this pipeline of like applying online, you are just one of the uh your application gets kicked out because of ATS, right? So I know you talk to AVP, but what would you suggest someone like in 2020 we had like 10 jobs for consultant, but maybe today we only have 5 left, right? The number has shrunk down. So I'm fighting against a bigger audience at this point. So
Hmm.
what's your recommendation in terms of like how should they stand out in this competition?
Yeah. And numbers wise, I mean, it's a firm to firm thing.
Mm,
Some firms are hiring more than ever. Others are flatlining and
yeah.
others are hiring less, like you said. So depend, and it's also like what roles are we talking about? What geographies are we talking? So it gets complicated pretty quickly. So what I would say is um the basic thing in terms of how do you stand out, right? It's the classic thing is, and it's always the right answer, is your resume. Like I would put most of my attention on that.
Yeah.
Um, but on top of that, to your point, get to learn what this firm is all about. I think people will sometimes assume, oh, top consulting firm, all the same. Get into one of them, life's great. It, honestly, not true at all. Like, get to understand the business. Like they all have different ways they work, and they're pretty considerable. It's not just like these small, tiny things of one uses Zoom and the other one uses Teams. No, it's different fundamentally the way they work, the way they structure their teams, the way they reward their teams, the way they serve their clients, what they want to be known for, what they don't want to be known for, what work would they do, what work would they not do. So many things that actually are different between the firms. If you don't understand that difference, guess what? The firm doesn't understand why you are different either. So if you can't tell the firms are different, they can't tell you are different. That's my simple way to think about it. So do enough research where you know exactly who's who, and as a result, tell the story accordingly that fits them best through your own way of telling the story, which is a resume. People will always say, "Oh, you should network and blah blah blah." Like, yes, you should network for the sole purpose of understanding the business better, understanding how people work there, understanding whether or not it would be a good fit for you as well, and then accordingly putting your best foot forward. Because when people think networking, they think networking so that someone likes me enough to recommend me for a job. Great. Uh, that's that should be the obvious outcome, but that shouldn't be why you go into those conversations. Because when you go into those conversations, you treat them as an avenue to get you a job, and they see that very early.
Yeah, it's a
We don't have time.
transaction, right?
Yeah,
Most
we don't
people
have time for that.
do. Yeah.
People literally saying, "Hey, I'm about to apply. Can you write me a recommendation or can you refer me?" First of all, who are you? I've never met you before. You're adding me on LinkedIn with that message on there. And I have no idea where you come from, what you've done. Sure, I can look at your profile. Great. But why should I look at your profile?
Okay, let's break it down because this is the key. This is gold, right?
Yeah.
I'm reaching out to Fahim Dar on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
He's a EM at McKinsey. How should I be reaching out to you?
Um,
Applying for associate role after my B school.
reach out to me to genuinely figure out what do we do. Uh, reach out to me to explain your certain situation that you would love someone to give more informal feedback on. Whether it's like, hey, I'm coming to you because we both went to Purdue, yay. Um, and I'm looking to apply, totally fine. I'm looking to apply to McKinsey, but before I do that, I think I have questions about the role, and I would rather talk to someone non-evaluative before I go do that. I can totally appreciate it. You are actually using me to understand in a safe way what that you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. That's totally fine, very acceptable. And in fact, I encourage that. Do that as much as you can. Leverage your common connections, whether it's through your school, through your hometown, through the company you both worked for before, whatever it is. Find people like that first. Those
Hmm.
people are more likely to, we as humans are more likely to react to something that feels familiar
Yeah.
and not go to completely unfamiliar territories. So on my side as well, if I see someone like that, I'm like, yeah, of course, let's go talk. In fact, I could even pull up my LinkedIn right now. I've literally talked to random people from Purdue, Booth, etc., like probably 20 people in the last month.
Yeah.
Um, so it's not that we don't want to answer, but what really irks people is, hey, I'm about to apply. Could you refer me? Or I'll randomly just add you. We have no common connections. I have no idea who you are, but I'm just adding you on LinkedIn. So I have one more connection. Why? Just tell me like why, what's the goal of why do you want to add me? Uh, Also, if you go on my LinkedIn, there's a bunch of invitations that are just pending because I have no idea who these people are.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, like I'm not gonna add you to my network and let you, I don't know, I don't want to use the wrong word here, but like let you just like go through my profile and say, oh yeah, this person's done blah blah blah, and I have no idea who you are. Um, so coming to your advice, like use your common connections, be open about what you want, but to what you said yourself, don't make it transactional. Like, try to get to know the person. I think that goes a long way, and be genuine about, exactly what it is that you would deem as success.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you're comfortable, be open with the other person as well about what you define as success, and then you both work towards those. So.
Is curiosity enough when someone is coming to you that, hey, I'm interested in McKinsey, this is what I know about the company, versus someone who has done a like a really good research about the projects your
Right.
company might be working on. So, what is the key factor you would
Yeah.
say that, yeah,
I think everyone's at a different spot in their hiring process.
yeah, yeah,
You have to start somewhere. So
okay,
I totally welcome curiosity cases. In fact, they are the most fun because they get to learn through you, and you could see like them going, "Oh, what? Wow," or like, "Oh, that sucks." So it's great. If you're curious, yes, go reach out to your connections and say, "Hey, I have heard just a little bit to be excited about this firm, but I still have a million questions. Can I find some time with you? And let's chat. I'm not looking to apply anytime soon, but would love to learn a little bit more about the firm." Great. People will respond. Most people will respond to you. And when people don't respond to you, it's because it goes back to work-life balance. Sometimes we don't have time. So totally. All the both situations that you mentioned, both are good. Because they're both genuine, in my opinion. The only thing is if it doesn't feel genuine, and to your point, it feels transactional, or you're using them for something and you'll move on and never actually keep in touch with that person, I think we can sniff that out pretty quickly.
I know for you, consulting environment is really about growth, pressure, and also you get burned out a lot because of like different expectations from client. How do you keep yourself grounded?
That's a very deep question and a very good one. Um, yeah, burnout's real. People experience that all the time. I think it all again comes down to what do you hold most dear and near to your heart. Um, and on top of that, too, it is being able to recognize the signs of burnout or stress or whatever might be showing. Many firms have resources in place to actually help you with that. Many firms allow you to go take time away and go spend a few months either hiking somewhere or just sitting at the beach or learning a new skill. Whatever it is, like there are avenues there to do that. What I would say is don't put that own internal clock on yourself. Many people put that internal clock like, oh, I have to make partner by 2026, or I don't know what I'm doing. Those people like, okay, they don't actually sense like when their body is giving them all these alarms or signals that, hey, I think we should slow down. They ignore all of those and they just keep going because that's the only thing that matters. In those cases, that becomes real. Because guess what? If you do everything possible and that's the only thing that matters for you, and you're making a shot at 2026, let's say 2025, because I'm creating a hypothetical situation here. Let's say someone worked for a year like crazy, or 2 years or 3 years, because they know by 2025, this is what I got to do. Now, when it doesn't happen, if it didn't happen, sometimes it's things out of your control. Sometimes it's the macro conditions. Sometimes it's something else. Sometimes it's the main client you had. That client decided to, stop working with consultants for a few years for some internal cost related reasons or whatever. So there are things out of your control that you can't always control. But if you are setting up for this ideal situation and it falls, that's when you don't know how to get back up. It was basically I ran full pace. I thought there was one more mile to go. I got there and then they said, surprise, you still have to run 5 more miles. I can't. I ran full pace the whole time. I guess I should have taken some breaks. I should have ran slower, should have drank water in the middle. So I can keep going. So that what I'm getting at is don't just put all eggs in one basket and go like, this is it. If it doesn't work out, then everything is a failure. I've noticed it with those people. They also ignore the signals their body gives them, or their mind gives them, or their family gives them. And they just keep going and just ends up being the disaster situation. So there are resources in place. You should leverage them. And although this is a, challenging and fast-paced environment, there are people who manage it really well. I know partners that are amazing parents, spend a lot of time at home, are very conscious about when they travel, when they don't travel, are very conscious about, hey, don't message me after 8 o'clock, like I'm with my kids, or I'm not going to be able to take any calls before 8 a.m. because I have to drop my kids at school. Or others, hey, I go to the gym from this time to this time. Sorry, that's something I can't miss. I have to do that. Or other people on Sundays, sorry, do not call me no matter what it is because I spend time with my parents. Everyone had, as long as you are open with what else matters to you and you're letting others know about that, I think that's the way to make this job a little bit more something where you feel like it's a lot more balanced than in theory. Because this job it will take as much as you give it. It's one of those beasts that if you keep feeding it more, it's gonna be more and more hungry. So
Yeah.
you can't just be like, I'm gonna keep feeding it till it's full. It's never gonna be full. So you have to decide how much you can feed, and then you have to decide when to stop. And if you have those clear levers in mind, I think you're gonna be a lot more successful.
Okay. So for moving on to our last question,
Yeah.
what's one career advice you would give to someone who is applying for consulting?
Career advice, other than the things we talked about. So less about resume,
Yeah. Or
problem
any
solving.
advice before they get into this
Yeah,
game?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear your question. What I'm
Mhm.
saying is, other than all of these things, there's one thing that matters the most, is like you should want it for the right reasons. Okay.
Mhm.
Like there's a lot of ways you can be successful in life. There's a lot of ways you can make a lot of money in life. And there's a lot of ways you can get success and career progression and et cetera in life. Um, so I wouldn't just see consulting as the only way to do all the things that I just mentioned. It should be beyond that. I would take some time to think for your particular situation with a clear, open mind. I would talk to my friends. I would talk to my family. I would talk to my ex-bosses. I would talk to like peers that I went to school with, and I would really try to understand, what am I getting into, and be really, really sure that that's exactly what you want to do. Because we went through this in the last hour of our discussion. There are a lot of things that don't make this the easiest thing in the world to do. So if you're signing up for that, you better have reasons that are, core to you, essentially, the things that matter to you, and you're able to get those things. And if the answer is yes, consulting's for you. If the answer is no, you can still be very successful in life. You can do a lot of things in life. Don't use consulting or the big firm names or big university names as, the report card to say, are you a successful person or are you a failure? There's a lot of That's not even the right way to look at things. A lot of ways to look at it in life. I would figure out for you what works and go about that. And it applies more, okay, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. It applies more to us, brown people. Uh, I think we have the societal pressure of
Yeah.
you have to be successful, you have to go to the best university, you have to go to the best paying jobs, you have to get best titles, etc. If not, then sometimes your own family, unfortunately, but sometimes, oh, the society is going to say, oh, not a very
Yeah.
successful kid, and this other person's kid is way more successful than you. Like, no, just filter that out. I think it's high time that we stop caring about what others think about us,
Yeah.
and it's time to put ourselves first and be able to decide what works for me and not what works for, I don't know, Kapoor uncle.
Other uncle, some
Yeah.
uncle who's talking about that. And very true, because I genuinely realized in my late 20s when I started doing that, I just focused on my career path and
Yeah,
didn't care about the noise. That's when I started living or started
exactly.
achieving the things what I wanted versus competing towards my peers that, oh, now he's a senior manager. I have to be a manager,
Right.
or like, following the same path, because there's no right path to carve into the correct opportunity you want, right? So,
Exactly.
guys, you just heard the masterclass of consulting as well as the right mindset. I think Fahim did his best to give us the right information. And if you want more from Fahim Dar about like want to learn about interview prep or more about consulting, please DM below so that we can call him again for another podcast. Thank you so much. Thank you, Fahim. Thank you for this
Thank
opportunity.
you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.